All right, hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. We are back doing full-length videos. First one I've done in probably 3 months or so. New job, took over at a new place, got the head coaching job about 2 weeks before the season. Been a bunch of work to do to get things where I want them, get my schedule where I want it, get everything the way it goes. Now we're halfway through the season, and we are ready, hopefully, to be back doing some things, trying out my new office, trying out different cameras. So hopefully this video works. All right, remember, check out some of our sponsors, GameStrat, all right, sideline replay company we use them for years. Used them at the previous 4 jobs that I've had, the previous 3 jobs that I've had, and hopefully I get them on board here in the future when I get a chance to do that, because they are highly affordable, highly reliable, absolutely love everything they do. Dome Hats said we're a company that I've always used every stop I've ever been. This is my no block, no rock hat. They've got all the great football hats out there that you've seen before, right? Run power off and run counter again. Fear the Veer, Nuck if you buck, Rip Liz match, all the greatest hats. They're there for football coaches because they are football coaches. Baker Sporting Goods company we use for our spirit packs, our uniforms, our fan gear, everything that we need from that standpoint we get from Baker Sporting Goods. Local company here, always trying to take care of high school coaches, so make sure you check out Baker Sporting Goods. FlyRoute Drones, if you've noticed any of the videos I've done on my Patreon site or some other places, anytime I use drone footage is the absolute best angle to teach from, the absolute best angle to see the things that you need to see, and I highly recommend, all right, using drone cameras, and FlyRoute Drones is the nation's leader in drones for athletics, so check them out. ModernFB, which is an analytics tool that I think every coordinator, play caller should be using, so you can figure things out on the fly, in game. What are you calling? What are they doing? Are they doing anything different than they had done in the past? You don't need to chart it by hand anymore. Input the data. It saves you tons of time every week. It saves you, a bunch of input work for your coaches during the week, but then at the same time on Friday night it lets you make those instant adjustments that coordinators need to be making. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about 11 personnel and trying to create 3x2 or 4x1 sets that appear to be quasi-empty, but you're still going to carry your base run schemes if your quarterback is a ball carrier. Now again, for this video to be effective, you have to be willing to run the quarterback, because the idea for us as a gap scheme team is to present the illusion of a 3x2 or 4x1 set. Try and get the defense to have to align to those sets so that we can then run our 6-man, all right, run schemes that we want to get to, that we want to carry within the gap scheme world. You could do it in the zone scheme world. It really wouldn't matter, but your quarterback's got to be a runner, right? Because when you think about things from a defensive perspective, anybody that's ever coached defensive football before, a lot of times when you see certain sets, you are defending things, or you're setting your coverage up to defend, all right, the width of the formation based on how many verticals you can get. You're setting a lot of things up on the coverage side, and then the coverage side has to match the front mechanic, and you've got to be able to fit your run fits into a world of the coverages that you're playing, right? So if you can present a 3x2 surface with a 3 that can still go vertical, right? The first issue that you're going to create is, how are they going to defend 3 verticals to that side? How will they defend it if all 3 of those players can go vertical, right? So depending on the type of team that they are, depending on how they do that, all right, if they want to defend those 3 verticals, okay, using the backside safety, if they're a poach team, all right, if there's somebody who borrows the backside safety, well, when you give them 3x2, they cannot borrow the backside safety, right? So if you give them 3x2, they always have to have another mechanic of how they handle 3 vertical, because they can't borrow the backside safety unless they want to walk the will out and play some type of man-to-man with the will. So you're trying to present an issue for some of those teams that borrow the backside safety to defend 3x1. Okay, if they were a 4-2-5 team, and maybe depending on the splits of 2 and 3, maybe they could try and play, all right, some version of, stubby to that side, or whatever, all right, however you want to declare that coverage, where maybe they're playing 2 read off of 2 and 3. Now the split of 2 and 3 might make that an issue. Not sure if they can do that or not, all right, whether they're going to come up here and try and play all of 1, however they're going to do it. Somehow you're trying to get them to figure out how they need to play the 3 vertical threats to the front side while also defending 2 vertical threats, or 2 removed to the backside, right? In theory, while they're doing all that, you're also still trying to make them fit 6-man runs in the box, and trying to get them to not be able to send the ball to their free hitter, right? So regardless of what we're going to see or how we're going to see that, now again, the first thing that you got to understand is you're probably going to get some gapped out movements, right? They're probably going to do some things. There's so much more to exactly what's going on here than just the box itself, right? But the theory is, how can we get them to have to defend vertical threats? How can we get them to have to defend 3x2? Obviously 3 is attached, right? Which might make it a little bit easier for them to do certain things. All right, if 3 was removed, maybe it makes coverage a little bit more difficult. But if 3 is removed, without bringing somebody back into the picture, I lose the ability to run gap scheme runs, right? So by leaving the tight end here, okay, I feel like I still have the ability to run all of the gap scheme runs that I want to carry with my quarterback, because if they're all 6-man run theories, right? So regardless of what you're doing, if you're using this tight end, all right, as let's say a puller on counter, right? So if you were running counter and you were trying to go, all right, with some type of theory where it was pull, kick, wrap, right? Those are the same 6 players that you would use if you were running counter with a tailback. It's the same 6 guys. It doesn't change the blocking scheme, right? So now we're trying to get a 6-on-6 run, and the quarterback now essentially becomes the ball carrier. So we're trying to create a box that is, all right, you know, advantageous for us to run the ball, try and eliminate or widen or remove some of the free hitters that they're trying to send the ball to, see if we can get them to try and fit runs differently when we present this type of issue for them. Because now if the free hitters are removed from the fit, now if they fit the run the same way and they send the ball to a free hitter that's not there, all right, obviously now we're trying to affect their run fits, right? But what I'm really trying to do is give myself a chance to spread the field, make them defend vertical threats while I still run my base run scheme. Because the last thing I want to do as an offensive coordinator is I don't want to have to change my schemes to get to the things that I want to get to that are problematic for the defense, right? So if we run, if we are a power, counter, duo, buck sweep team, right? If those are the 4 main runs that we carry every week, I would love to get into a world where I present a picture that makes it a little bit more difficult for them to fit the box while still running all of my base run theories, all right? All of my base run theories that I can get to with the 6 blockers that I need to get to it with, right? So again, you know, if you looked at it and you said, okay, well, how are you going to run buck sweep, or how are you going to run the window dressing that you might have to put on it to time it up or to get the quarterback where you need to get them, okay? You still have the quarterback as a ball carrier, right? You still have a system where you can block things similar. So if we were going to run buck sweep from our 2-back stuff, we would seal with that, okay? We'd be, all right, down to that, we'd be back to that, we would probably hinge that, okay? And now we're going to try and usually either crack somebody if we can, get the first blocker out to that, second blocker up and seal, and then if we block that, we can still run buck, all right? Maybe we tie it to some type of quick game on the backside that the quarterback has a chance, if he likes the numbers, the coverage, the leverage, throw that. If not, look that, now run the buck sweep to give guys a chance to get out there. Now again, in theory, do you absolutely love the play? Do you absolutely love the design? Maybe you don't, okay? But for me, what I'm always trying to get to is pictures I can create that make it tough on the defense to fit, because last 4 years of my life, I was only a defensive coordinator. And in the past, I have called defenses before, so I know the things that might give me a little bit of an issue when I look at something and say, all right, how am I going to defend 3 verticals to that side? How am I going to defend 2 verticals to the backside? How am I defending the width of the formation? How am I defending those things while still figuring out a way to say, hey, I've got to teach run fits. I've got to be able to fit these runs the way that we fit runs. And I don't want to change the mechanics. So the same thing that I would tell you on offense, I want to carry my base runs, right? It's the same thing I want to tell you on defense. I want to fit runs the way I always fit runs, because if I don't, now I have to constantly change. We're dealing with 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. Changing the way you fit runs every day is not a good idea. Changing the way you block runs every day is not a good idea. Changing how you signal things every day is not a good idea. Adding things to kids that become new or not same as, not the greatest idea, depending on the clientele that you're coaching. So how do we get in a world that we present? A lot of people talk empty all the time. I love empty, I love empty. Well, I like the idea of empty. What I really don't like so much about empty is I don't like the run game. I don't like how I'm going to recreate certain things in the run game. All right, a lot of our run game is 6-man, all right, you know, six-man run blockers into theory. A lot of gap schemes, right? A lot of duo schemes where, we'd be trying to, possibly work something off of, blocking that, doubling that to that, doubling that to that, blocking that. Well, if I don't have those six, I lose that theory. Okay? So I'm trying to figure out a way that I can create an empty picture that makes defenses have to defend empty, defend verticals, right? Defend the width of the formation while still being able to run the ball in the box. All right, so for me, the way that I would like to do that is keep the tight end attached, keep him hipped in a position where he can go there, right? Because that's one of the big things right away that makes defenses think, can that guy go vertical? Is he a vertical threat? Now I got to acknowledge him as a vertical threat, okay? And now I have to be able to understand that if he's a vertical threat, how am I defending three verticals there with two verticals on the backside? A lot of times when you see teams borrow a backside safety, empty or teams shifting or moving to empty is one of the things that gives them an issue, because the backside safety sees three receivers, the front side tells them, hey, poach, yo, whatever your rules are. He moves over there and they forget that there's a two that goes vertical over here, which technically that would be the will in that version of coverage. The will would have two if he was in the backfield on this side. Well, he's not in the backfield, he's out here. Do you want to walk your will out here and play man-to-man and poach that side and give me a 5.5-man box I can run at with six guys? So we're trying to present a picture that appears empty while still being able to carry all my base runs. If you did it from a different personnel world, all right, so if you did it from a personnel world where maybe the T-back, the tailback is one of the empty players, okay? Maybe the tailback is one of the empty players. Well, now you can get in a world where you present a picture, all right? So you think about like an inbounds theory, or you think about like a P and 10 theory coming from the sideline. You present this picture, if you like it, maybe you throw a screen to the, if they don't cover down, you throw a screen to the tailback, all right? If they do cover down, for whatever reason, if they cover down, now you just move the tailback into the backfield, and now you have all your 11 personnel gap scheme runs with the tailback if your quarterback is not a runner. So if my quarterback wasn't a runner, this might be more of a P and 10 deal, where I come out in this with the tailback out here, and I have screens set up that I like based on how they align. And if they don't align the way I want to, then I come back and I just move the tailback where I want them, and now I've got my base 11 personnel and I can call whatever run play I want, right? So again, to me, it's a matter of trying to figure out how can I create a picture that makes the defense defend the picture, make the defense defend 10 personnel or empty formations, right? Things that look like you can't run gap schemes while still leaving a tight end attached to be able to run all of our gap schemes, all right? The other way you can do it is, and again, I would do this is something I would certainly do with the tailback possibly, is create a picture that's actually three receivers. So now let's create a picture that's actually three receivers to a side. All right, so now, like, again, in the old days when we were a 4-2-5 team, right away within the game plan, when our guys see three receivers, they right away want to play their version of mixed coverage, my version of mixed coverage, which makes it Saban's version of stubby coverage, right? Why do we want to do that? Because I always wanted to leave him here so that I can use him to bracket the single. I can use him as a weak side run defender, right? That's what we were always trying to get to. So can we get them in a world where they line up to a three receiver set while I still have a tight end attached so that I can still come back and run my six-man gap schemes, especially, all right, especially again, the big key to this is this kid a ball carrier, right? Because everybody understands it. You see it in high school football a ton. You see it in college football a bunch. If the quarterback is a ball carrier, you make the game 11 on 11. You're going to add a gap. You're going to add things that people have to defend. You have gap schemes that you can account 6 on 6. Quarterback's a ball carrier. When the quarterback is under center or a guy who just hands off, the game actually becomes 11 on 10. All right? Again, theory for me, philosophy for me, something I think about all the time. Under center quarterbacks make the game more 11 on 10 than 11 on 11. Shotgun quarterbacks make it 11 on 11. If this guy's a ball carrier, I now present a 4x1 picture. All right, I have what I like out there to the three receiver side. I'm trying to force you to defend three receiver sets. All right, but most of the time when you see three receiver sets, you're getting one back 10 personnel and you think you're getting 10 personnel runs, right? So it'd be, to me, it's the same theory as if you were 3x1 with a back that could block and a quarterback that could carry the ball. The picture you're presenting to the defense right? The picture you're presenting to the defense is a 3-receiver structure. A lot of defenses have 3-by-1 checks. You're trying to get them into a 3-by-1 check, all right, which puts them usually in a 1-back type of world to fit runs, and now you're trying to come back at them with 2-back or 11 personnel runs, right? All we're doing is creating a presentation that can get them into something that we think can be advantageous for us to then come back and run, all right, whatever it is we want it to run. All right, so maybe we run Q power there with some type of one-on-one deal there, all right, and then maybe some type of stick scenario there to say, all right, where's the mic? Is the mic in the fit? Can the mic make tackles? If he can, work on throwing the stick. If he can't, run quarterback power. All right, so you're still making it RPO in nature. You're just doing it without a mesh. You're doing it to the quarterback. All right, if you wanted to do it pre-snap, all right, I would say tell the quarterback that this is a decide play. You decide where the mic is. Can I throw stick, right? You decide where the mic is. Can I throw bubble to 3 based on the leverage and the numbers? If I can, let it rip. If I can't, come back here and run quarterback power. All right, what are they doing with the backside safety? If they're leaving them back here, all right, then maybe I don't have this gift. If their backside safety is a guy that has to go all the way over, all right, for them, if their backside safety is a guy that has to go over for them to poach, and now you get that world, all right, well, maybe you come out right away and you say, hey, this is my dude. If I can get my dude one-on-one, we have things built in where we go back to our dude one-on-one. If I can't get him one-on-one, then I'm going to try and run the ball, or I'm going to try and attack the trip sides, right? So all we're doing is creating a picture. We're still using 11 personnel. We're still carrying a body that can block all the things that we want to block. There's no new schemes up front for the 5 guys and the tight end. All right, it's power, counter, duo, buck, whatever your philosophy is, whatever your theory is. Create a picture and a presentation that makes them defend verticals, that makes them defend more of a 1-back setting, okay, and try to come back at them with 2-back runs. Now again, this is all simple on a board with diagrams. Obviously, defensively, the philosophy is going to be a bunch of movements. They're going to gap things out, right? So they're probably going to, defensively, if this was the scenario and they knew what they were seeing and the mic was in a little bit of a bind, most defenses are probably going to try and do something where they gap out the front side and send runs out to the mic where he is, right? So again, it's not theories just to say, hey, if we line up and do this, they can't stop it. All you're trying to do is put your kids in advantageous situations that are very similar to everything else that you do in your offense, how you do it. You've got to create presentations that make the defense have some difficulties lining up and trying to defend what you're doing, but you have to be able to do all the same things that you do from that setting. So you've got to be able to get to some of your passes and your runs in that setting. If you create a picture, all right, that makes it difficult for the defense, but you can't get to any of your base theories, then you're really not doing yourself or your players any justice. You've got to create a picture, all right? Here's one of the big ones you see all the time. All right, we use it, other teams use it. Okay, and it's a solid theory, even though there's ineligible people. You'll see teams get into a 2-back world, and they'll go X over. And even though when they go X over, all right, even though when they go X over, they actually get an ineligible receiver. So they lose a receiver in the equation, right? But what they create that defenses have a hard time with is they create a 3-wide receiver side, which most people in their defense have trips checks. Or a lot of defenses have one way that they play 3-by-1. Now you put them in a world where the kids see 3 receivers, they want to get into a 3-by-1 check, but you still have 2 backs, all right? You still have 2 backs, so you still have your power, counter, duo, buck theory if you need it, okay? So you still have 6-man runs, okay? And if your quarterback's a dude, you actually have 7-man runs, okay? Why do people do that? Why do you see it on offense? You see it because it makes people defend 3 receiver sets. Even though there's an eligible there, you make it tough on defenses to figure out, hey, when they're in that, there's a guy that's not eligible. We're not covering all of them down. We're going to play 2.5 for those 3 and make them do something to that so that we can leave all right, an 8-man box that we feel like we can fit, and we can fit our runs the same way. You're creating a picture that makes it a little bit difficult for a 15, 16-year-old, 17-year-old kid. Every coach that's on defense